A very good afternoon, everyone. I warmly welcome our honorable keynote speaker and delegates across the world. I welcome you all to the second RSRI conference on contemporarity of language and literature in the robotized millennium, and we are grateful to organize this program. The members of the organizing committee and all the volunteers who have arranged such a beautiful session, I would like to thank them. Now I call upon the paper presenters and their titles. Clear Gitches to Gear Learning in Online Atmosphere by Dr. Niveta Thomas. Juxtaposition of Biblical Character Ruth with Neoteric Muliebrity by Prem Raj. And The Nature and Identity in Ruth's Poem by Afrin Khan. It will be grateful to hear from our keynote speaker. Now I request Mr. Prem Raj to introduce our chief guest. Over to Prem Raj.
Good afternoon. I take this opportunity as a privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Vinmayal, Assistant Professor, Rsri College. Her experience spans over 10 years of teaching English language in colleges. She serves as an NSS program officer and also a mentor in PTL. She has presented several research papers, seminars, articles, citations in national and international conferences. She has a passion for research and a specialist in studies, eco-criticism, and feminist criticism of literature around the world. We are greatly honored to have such an eminent personality as our session chairs today. Dear participants, please join me with welcoming Dr. Vinmayal. Welcome you, ma'am. The forum is yours. Ma'am, your mic is muted.
Thank you for your wonderful introduction, sir. A very good afternoon to all the participants and coordinators of this session. I am extremely grateful to chair the post-lunch session. In the morning, we had a sumptuous literary feast where assorted topics were discussed. I am extremely eagerly awaiting the presentation of this session too. I welcome your good, lively participation of all presenters and participants. I hope you will all keep the session interactive. Shall I have the first presenter, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you may proceed. I request Dr. Niveta Martin for the first presentation for the topic Clear Gitches to Gear Learning in Online Atmosphere. Niveta Martin, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Can you able to hear me?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Sir, is my screen visible to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am, your screen is very much visible. If possible, you can enable your video too, ma'am.
Sir, there is a small issue in that. Shall I proceed, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you may proceed.
Okay, sir. A very good afternoon, everybody. So I'm happy to present my paper entitled Clear Glitches to Gear Learning in Online Atmosphere. Actually, we have stepped into a pandemic situation, but more on to that, we have just entered into a new system of education, which we have never dreamt of being so. And every now and then we used to say that the Indian nation is a developing nation, and moving on to an online system of education is going to be a nightmare, and it is not possible to some extent. So we have been having a lot of glitches over there. But still now we have just cleared it to some extent and we have mastered it, and we have stepped into a new scenario of education system. So we are just raising the standards to the international level. So that's what we can boast of it. But when we are going having a profound analysis of what is going in an online atmosphere, the process of teaching and learning, definitely there are so many glitches out there, and it is the prime responsibility of the academicians of us to sort out what are the glitches, and we have to gear it up so that we can make the learning process at most easier. So here, as we all seen that, we are getting ourselves attuned with the electronic gadgets. And just before the Planet Talk was highly focusing on the hybrid learning and hybrid teaching methodology, the technological features, integrated teaching and learning process. So we have been mastering ourselves with electronic gadgets, and we have been an active participant in social media. But now there is a transition from the electronic gadgets to be turning into educational tools. And social media, now it has been turned into educational platforms. But the best example is the WhatsApp. So we used to just share our photos and informations and chats and messages with our friends and relatives. But now it has been brought into the student community. We have started to create groups. We have just started to share e-material, e-content, and something which we were studying hard to just design the e-content, which we felt that is something too tough and we require a lot of skills and time to invest into it to get and prepare e-content. But now each and everyone being a master in preparing the e-content. So here we can say that such a transition is existing from this conventional system of education to this e-learning system of education. Then whenever we are going to have a instance of what is happening at the present system, definitely we have to go back to when revival of what is this Gurukul system. So we know that how the teaching learning process have undergone a paradigm shift. So we know that our Indian educational system has grown from this Gurukul system, where we had this type of education in our ancient time. So then this Gurukul system has been modernized, and during the British rule has been abolished, and then it has been again rejuvenated, and now it has been come back. We have lots and lots of stories and literature behind the revolution that has been created by the Gurukul system. So after this British rule, we now stepped into the new educational system, and of course the leaders of our nation meticulously planned in raising the standards of education to the global levels, and by devising lots and lots of policies and favoring the student community and enhancing the academicians and research, and somehow we have raised our standard of educational system. But then now we have stepped into this electronic system. So we are somewhere being seated up, and you guys are being somewhere being seated up, and we are having an virtual collaboration and sharing of knowledge that has been taking place. So this is what I like to say, it's like a paradigm shift. And now presently, what are the initiatives the Indian government has taken in order to govern the educational system? So one is the e-Gyangosh. It has been organized by IGNOU. And of course, we are highly familiarized with the SWAYAM, NPTEL and all those things. So here, these type of learning platforms are motivating us to step into the self-learning regulatory systems. So this is how you can have an and all those things, but still we have to step into the other aspect also. So now what are the glitches of online system of education? I have discussed in a very general perspective. So virtuality at both ends in high fashion. I can say that I'm having a transfer of knowledge, but I'm not sure whether the transfer is taking, if it is going to take place in a real environment, then automatically it is going to just move ahead with the virtuality over there. And now there is a quest of quality education, whether this particular system of education needs. And there are so many statistics have been saying that nearly many of the people have still been unreached to this system of education. Definitely it is there. And of course, this phenomenal interaction, it is not having the actual interaction. So just for namesake, we do have an interaction. But some are taking up this interaction to be highly effective. But whether it is being possible by everybody, or are they masters in that? So they are somehow able to manage, but I'm not sure whether it is going to be reached at the high end or not. Then of course, it demands high investment of time. If I want to prepare, really I have to prepare a lot when I step into this virtual mode of learning and teaching. And of course, what about the social domain? A teacher's responsibility or the education responsibility is highly focusing on the enhancement of all the domains of a particular student. Cognitive, cognitive, psychomotor, of course the social domain. Where are the social skills? How we are going to cover up the social skills? So e-learning is not going to be just a substitute or replacement. Now this is going to take the higher levels. When we are going to make this to be a mandatory at some level, then definitely the social domain coverage has to be focused on. So what are the channels of evaluation? Okay, I'm taking a class, the people are listening. I'm assuming that they are listening. But what is the evaluation? Whether the objective of the teaching and learning process has been completed, has been fulfilled? That's a million-dollar question. And I can say that this particular system of education is confined to elite groups, and we can go with the other discussion of the economic and social background. So underprivileged people, whether they are around this one, whether they are in the circumference of this online, they are highly far away from this. So technical barriers, of course, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to complete my presentation without or with the network intervention. So I'm highly dependent on all those things, and I have to be very cautious with that. So technical barriers are real obstacles for us to have the free flow of this exchange of process of knowledge at the learning and teaching in an online environment. So as a teacher and as a part of a teaching community and as an academician, I like to just put forward some suggestive measures for a full-fledged online education system, because sole presence in that. We are being a part and parcel of this. Daily we are being a contributing role in that. So what are the things we feel that it has to be taken as suggestive measures to clear up these glitches over there? So when online orientation, still teachers have to be oriented, just not going with the YouTube and looking on some videos and learning by ourselves, fine. For some time it will be better, but for a long run, do you think that it is possible? Because we have been given nearly 2 years of teaching practice under the educational program, and we have been exposed to so many aspects. But what comes to this online platform? Aren't we exposed to that? It is only the theoretical one. It were there. But then now it has been come to the reality. So we need a special orientation. And what are the online teaching skills? That's a very important. When something goes wrong, we cannot just go to the extreme of our emotions and come down and come up. The ebb flow is there. So we must know the master the students in an online environment. And we cannot keep yelling out and shouting at them because it is not a real one, it's a virtual environment. So each one's roles, the transition of roles, have to be explained well. And what is the framework of online system of education? Has there any framework of it? No, it is yet to be designed. What are the quality indicators? How do I say, how do we define this online teaching is good? It is going to be an effective one. So what are the quality indicators? And what are the hurdles, the institutions? So it is not at the risk of each of the faculties. We have met, okay, you have, again, what is the alternate? So what the intervention of the educational institutions with that? So that has to also be highlighted. Even with the allied institutions, what are they? So those things have to be again good with that. And of course, the intervention of government is very, very essential because it is a crucial time and we have to make the system of education available to all the people below poverty. This cannot be just in words. It has to put into practice when we are going to boast that the Indian education system is going to or venture into going to have the 2.0 version or 3.0 version, whatever, maybe the version, but still the intervention of government is very, very important. And organization of the academic programs, how we are going to go ahead with that? Simply taking up each and everything. So we need the entire plan and framework of it. And we want to cover up the emotive and social factors. As we all know that the state government has given a relaxation for a period of time for the students to come out of the emotional stress they have been experiencing for the past days when they have been engaged in the online classes. And now it is not only for them, it is for even the teachers. After the 3 continuous hours, the emotive factors, social factors, where are they? How we can have a break for all those things? Then evaluating procedures are much more important. We have an open book system, but now do you think that it is going to have a run-up for coming days? No, definitely we need evaluating procedures and we have to make it a universal one also. And of course, the online educational components, they have to cater to the overall personality of the student community. So it has to be designed in such a way like that. So with this, I like to come to the concluding of my research work on this clearing of glitches and some suggestive measures. And in this particular research article, I have just presented the transition from the Gurukula system to electronic system and what is the status of the electronic e-learning system. how we have been introduced, and what are the other things, intervention of government, and how far the government has to go ahead with that. And this system of education, of course, it has been welcome to handle this pandemic. No other go. We have the only option of stepping into this online system. But still, the only thing is the question of effectiveness and quality indicators. So we have to design some frameworks for it, and some immediate and instant measures have to be taken down in order to clear up such glitches. So with this, I like to conclude my presentation, and I thank you for the organizers for giving me a wonderful opportunity to present my opinion and suggestive measures on clearing the glitches of online teaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Nivedita ma'am. It's a wonderful presentation. Your research is an excellent one. You have included all kinds of glitches and hitches online education is facing every day. And we teachers are very much taxed with all these work that might make you to do research on this part. But you have said that raising the standard through online teaching and learning ambience and the transition from electronic gadgets to educational tool, all these facts you have mentioned are all to be accepted. And as you have told, confinement to elite group and availability of online platforms to all across poverty line or across the people who are living in below poverty line, all these things have to be considered more by the government. As you have said, the government has to take necessary steps and measures. However, we can consider this online atmosphere as a healthy one, but does online learning provide inclusive learning atmosphere? As you have said, it is not. Do you agree with me? It doesn't provide an inclusive learning atmosphere. Am I right? There are difficulties for the physically challenged people.
Yes, ma'am.
And
What you're saying is exactly right. Even those aspects also remain uncovered. As you were telling, the physically challenged, visually challenged people, especially visually challenged people. So that is going to be really a serious problem in that. Even that has also been taken some alternative measures. When we feel that the system is going to run for some time, the system has to be effective for a majority of the people, not for only a very few people, a few sectors. So when statistics reports are telling that the system of education has not reached many of the people. So that is the reality behind it.
That's the reality. Still, there are some people who cannot access the online platforms, and it remains a distant dream to them. We have to accept this bare, bitter truth. And one more thing, you have to note it down. As we are all teachers, we must have concern over our physical ailments that we are facing every day after attending all the online classes and after having a preparation for all those things. Health is wealth. சுவர் இருந்தால்தான் சித்திரம் வரைய முடியும். We all know that. But we are losing every day our health as well as our students' health. That point also you can add it to your glitches.
Sure,
Okay,
ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Audience, do you want to ask any questions? Or you can give your comments over her presentation. It's a nice, wonderful research she has done. Okay, if there is no any other questions, shall I pass on to the next presenter?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Dr. Nivedita Martin, for the wonderful presentation. Now, I would like to call upon the next participant, the next presenter, Mr. Prem Raj, titled Juxtaposition of Biblical Character, Ruth with Neoteric Muliebrity. Yes, sir, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, you can start.
Something, let me know whether my PowerPoint has been.
Yes. Yes, sir. Your PPT is visible.
Good afternoon to all the participants as well as the keynote speaker. My topic for today's presentation is juxtaposition of biblical character with Neoteric Muliebrity. I have taken Ruth as a character in the book of Ruth in Bible. The period of Ruth was dated back second half of the 12th century BC during the period of Judges. But the book was written in 654 BC, the period of Solomon or King David. The book has been divided into 4 sections. I can look at this book in 4 different angles. The first one is showing the sorrow of widows.
Can you rectify the problem in your audio, sir? It's echoing, sir.
Is it fine now, ma'am?
Yeah, sir. It's now fine.
So I can view this book into 4 different sections. The first section focusing on the sorrow of widows. The second section focusing on the service of a daughter-in-law to the mother-in-law. The third one is submission towards the mother-in-law. And the last section is focusing on the satisfaction, that is the blessing for Ruth. And in Bible, the book of Ruth is an important book. Why? Because it shows the lineage of King David and Jesus. In the Ruth chapter 4, verses 12, it's saying about the lineage which comes Ruth, as well as in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 1 to 5, focusing on the same about the Ruth. Especially in the past, it's a man's world. A woman is giving much purity in all the stories. But here, Ruth is emphasizing more. Why? Because of her obedience. Here we come with the family tree, we go with the beginning of the story, then we can understand the character sketch, which can be compared with the Neoteric Muliebrity. The beginning, Elimelech and Naomi moved from Israel to Moab, all because of there is a famine at the time of Judges. They moved over there, lived for a while. Naomi lost her husband. She has started living with her 2 sons. One is Mahlon, the other one is Ccllrm. Both Mahlon and Ccllrm got married to Moabites, Ruth and Orpah. They lived for 10 years. After 10 years, Ruth and Orpah lost their husbands. Now, 3 widows are left all alone. This is a pathetic situation. In the past, in the 12th century BC, living without the support of a man is not an easy task. But what makes them united? The love among them. Naomi decided to leave to Israel, that is her hometown, to lead a future life. But she decided, and she concerned on her daughter-in-law to secure her life. She's sacrificing herself, that's the price of her own deepened sorrow. She's advising her daughter-in-law to move to the mother's home. The words Ruth chapter 1:8 says, "Don't you want to go home to your own mothers? You were kind to my husband and sons, and you have always kind to me. I pray that the Lord will be just as kind to you." Here the words, we can understand how good the daughter-in-law shows the love towards the husband as well as the father-in-law. This is a real example about the love and care affection a girl who's got married to another family shows. Here, I'm comparing here with the present day daughter-in-laws as well as the mother-in-law, how we have to learn lessons from them. The unconditional love between these is arguing with each other about whether we have to go or not. But Ruth remonstrates that she don't want to leave the old mother-in-law. But Naomi kissed both the daughter-in-law. Immediately the daughter-in-law raised their voice and wept along with them. Naomi. So we can portray the situation how it was at the time. So the love and affection, each other don't want to leave because everybody should support one another. After a few words, convincing words from Naomi to daughter-in-law, again they wept, they raised a voice, but Orpah understands the situation. She kissed her mother-in-law and left the place. The kissing with each other in the Old Testament focusing more on respect and love, obedience. But Ruth immediately clung towards her mother-in-law and crying like anything because she don't want to leave her mother-in-law. But Naomi was very stubborn about concerning on the future of the daughter-in-law. Look at this one, though she's old, she doesn't want the support of anybody because both the daughters-in-laws are very young, they have a life. Let them leave. Let her go and find a new life. But the situation between Moabite and Israel is quite different. The reason why Naomi wants her daughter-in-law not to come to Israel, go to the homeland, is the books, which is Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Judges, which was written before the Ruth, says there was a conflict between Moabite and Israel. Why? Because Israel committed adultery with the woman of Moab and worshipped the Moabite god Baal. So the wrath of God was rose against the Israel. And Moses commanding the people of Israel after landing to the gifted land for the Israel people, the commandments given by the Lord to the Moses, and Moses is advising the Israel people that none of the descendants should enter into the assembly of God. That is, none of the Moabites should enter into the Israel. Because the people of Israel is very much angry with one another because that was the curse for them. The book of Judges says the Israel weren't allowed to pass through the land. They don't have any communication. They won't allow that people to come over here. But here, Ruth as a foreigner, it's very hard for her to come to Israel and leading her life along with the Naomi. She knows everything about what the situation. It goes to Israel. It's a very tough task for her. Even Naomi understands the situation over there, but Naomi is concerned more on her mother-in-law. Naomi started praying and giving a hope to her mother-in-law. The verses starts like this. This is what my research started focusing more on these two words, Ruth chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. And this is what I'm going to compare with the characteristic of Ruth along with the Neoteric Muliebrities. Entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. This is a word of distinction. Not everybody can have this much of care and affection. And in this word, I can understand that the deeper love between the two women and the affection, the real love between mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. At present, the same situation is happening in today's life. After getting married, the girl is going to adapt towards the newly married family. That's what I could say. It's marriage is not only because of the man and the woman. It's bonding between the two families. That's what the real emphasizing, which is focusing in the story of Ruth. Though she lost her husband, but she's still getting bonded with the family. She has the responsibility. She is having the duty to serve. But this is what the portraying in the Ruth's character. The next, the same word, she said that for wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. It's not just because of living along with the mother-in-law. It's a noble love and sacrifice her whole life. She is in. She can go and find another husband, and she can lead her life. But that is not her target. The humanity of Ruth shows in a word. Wherever you go, in the sense, it's not about the place of Israel, it's also, we can understand about the path. Wherever she directs Ruth, and she's ready to follow her path. Wherever she lodges, it might be a rich place or a poor, or they might suffer because they don't have anything. They lost everything. They are poor. They do not. They don't have any hope once you're reaching the Israel. But she's ready to leave her the following life. And this verse, I could understand that Lord is focusing not about the place or the shelter, it's focusing about the Naomi is her home. This is an unconditional love I can understand with the word of Ruth in the Bible. The next, your people shall be my people, your God, my God. This is one of an important words we can understand. In every wedding vows, this is for the people of husband's family is her family once she get married. The God is her God. The God in the sense here, I'm not focusing about the Almighty, which is focusing in the Bible. In literature view, I can focusing about the customs, what is followed by the family, it should be adapted. Maybe a religious custom or cultural style, whatever it is. Accepting her husband late as going home. And it's also focusing on the relatives in Israel, her own. And she's ready to accept and ready to worship whatever the Naomi does. Where you die, I will die. Where they will be buried. I think not everybody can have this kind of word to anyone. This might be said to the soulmate, a beloved, or an husband, whoever it is. But saying this word to mother-in-law, it's really a great love she had. Here, I can understand in a different angle that a dead body should not be carried back to Moab. Though she is brought up in a Moab, she's a Moabite girl. Everybody wants to, because still now the daughter-in-law is always having a concern on the mother's family. Because they have the care and affection still. I'm not telling Ruth doesn't have, but a sacrifice. When she has got married, not only to Malon, but also to the family of Malon. So this country is her country, and she's ready to live and die for people as well as in the same land. And also the other angle we can understand that she ready to accept that the same grave is going to be offered for the Ruth. Why this? Where will I be buried? It's not about the graveyard, what we can talk about. In Christianity, right? The Christians have a belief that after death, there is a second coming of the God where everybody rise. Here, at the time of second coming, where the people those who are buried may rise, she wants to rise along with the mother-in-law. That means after death, they didn't want to be separate. They want to be together forever. This unconditional love is a good example for all generations. If both the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is having this kind of understanding, love and care and affection, which Ruth showed a living example in the past, would be a very good lessons for the present people. The Lord do so to me and more also. If anything but death apart you and me. This is a final statement of Ruth. This assurance to the Naomi that Ruth is giving. What are the assurance she is giving? The kindness of Naomi's family reminds him, after the death of Naomi, she is there to play the role of Naomi. What she promised earlier that her relative is her relative, her God is her God. So she is promising that she will follow the same after the death of the Naomi. That means her family values will still be forwarded. So it will not be stopped after Naomi because she is the one who is representing the family of Naomi. So look at the duties and the responsibilities of the Ruth which she had in the past. And now I'm focusing on the Neoteric Muliebrity, the present daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law. Acceptance and adaptability are the paramount for daughter-in-law in an in-law's case. It's not easy. It's the toughest task. A newly place, anything, a common thing which is seen may be understood in a new dimension of the daughter-in-law's viewpoint. Suddenly, there is a cultural change. There might be a lifestyle and religion. At present, in today's world, especially in India and few other countries, many of them are getting girl from the same culture, same religion, or the same place. Why? Because the girl may understand the religious value, the culture, so that it's easy for her to adapt the present situation. But here, the story of Ruth is quite different. Ruth doesn't know about the Israelite, Israel or the enemy. Since we are not going to an enemy country, and that we have to be very careful about adaptability in a new home after getting married. Possessive is very common on both the end, both the daughter-in-law as well as the mother-in-law. Jealousy is very common because the love and care of affection from a son to the mother might be lost, she thinks, all because of the girl who is coming to the family newly. The same vice versa. There's a very common understanding, but that is not, I can say that's not true. Both are understanding in a different angle, and that makes them insecure. In the lesson of Ruth, the compassion, honesty, integrity, generosity, honor, and kindness. If we take this as an example, and if we follow all these things, we can easily crack the relationship breakup between in-laws. The modern individualistic society influencing a lot in present day. There's a change in the lifestyle, lack of family bonding, even the financial need. Everybody is running behind money. It says we don't have time to take care of the elders. I'm not telling everybody is under this trap, no. Due to the influence of this modern society, we are forced to spend time with the in-laws as well as the parents. And both, especially the daughter-in-law, should understand the duty. Our duty is not only to serve the husband, but also to serve the family of the husband. The Ruth's unfalling love, obedience and sacrifice is the time of bitterness. I think this is a lesson for the modern woman who can build the family relationship here. Thank you.
Controversial
Yes, ma'am.
topic, I think so,
Yes.
sir. Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I appreciate you for choosing this topic, a good one. No one has touched this topic, I think so. We couldn't even find it, this trick of reference in literature even, as it is, you have done a great job. I should have accepted. But anyway, Ruth's society, age, and her own lifestyle or responsibilities are completely different from that of the contemporary women today we are living with. Do you agree with it or not, sir? Because
Yes, ma'am.
your point to have woman-to-woman affection that has to be emulated in modern woman is to be appreciated. Yes, of course, I can understand. But the living condition of both women, Ruth as well as the modern woman, are completely different. That should be accepted. Okay. Do you agree with me or not, sir?
I agree with.
Okay, then how can you suggest Ruth can be emulated, Ruth's characters can be emulated, or she can represent a woman with the good qualities or some,
Yeah.
what a modern woman can follow?
Shall I answer your question, ma'am?
Yes. Waiting, sir,
The,
eagerly.
the situation which was happened in the 12th century BC is quite different from the present scenario, right? But few things I've taken here is she is a foreigner, her culture is quite different. But here, at present, we are in the same country, right? The culture is not much different. There is no relationship, especially, I'm not talking about the daughter-in-law from Pakistan who is coming to India. It's all because of the same nation. Especially, most of them are getting married to the same religion. But here, the people of Israel hates Moabite. That's what the reference are given in the past. But due to this risky situation, she's ready to accept whatever situation is going to happen over there in Israel. She's ready to accept. So it's all because of unconditional love. But here, the situation is very simple. We don't have this much the toughest task here. But where there was an existence of the love and affection between the daughter-in-law and mother-in-law, here, I'm not telling it is not existing, but the percentage may get down all because of influence of the present modern life. We may give a lot of reasons like about both of them are working. We don't have time to take each of them, but I think the roots are affectionate, and here she lost her husband. Even the mother-in-law also lost her husband, right? They are all alone. Now the Ruth has understand the situation, right? Both of them are alone, and they have to take this situation as a challenging situation because I already said that it's a man's world. Living woman alone is not easy. So they have to get married or they have to be supported by a man. But here the present situation is quite different. But and there is a decision making between Ruth, a wise decision that she should not leave her mother-in-law alone once she is leaving the Moab. This is for the juxtapositions I'm focusing more between this one, the equal understanding in the past as well as the present. I'm not talking about the culture and change all those things. I'm just interrelating with the present situation. Here the situation is somehow very common, but here what went wrong? What is lacking here? Again and again, I'm not blaming any of the daughter-in-laws and mother-in-laws here, right? But if we follow the care and affection, deep love, and we don't have any family misunderstanding, is my understanding.
Yes, sir. Yes. Good explanation, sir. Any audience? Do you want to ask any questions to Mr. Premraj? Do you agree with him? Are you married, sir?
No, no.
That's why you have chosen this topic, sir. After marriage, you couldn't think about this kind of relations. I think so. Okay, we can proceed with the next paper.
Once we understand the problem between these two ladies.
Do you want to say anything?
Yeah. Once we understand the problem between these two ladies in the family, it's very common. It's a challenging situation for all the son to face. They are the middlemen for both the wife as well as the mother. So once we understand this, before getting married, we can easily manage a family relationship.
Yes, I very much appreciate the words. I was much impressed by the words. Wherever you go, I will follow you. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge that. It's like Raman irkumidame Sidiki Ayodhya Mari. It replicates that meaning to me. Yes, of course. Even I am in a joint family. I live with my mother-in-law. I could understand the love between Ruth and her mother-in-law also. Yes, anyway, good presentation. I never expected this relationship will be taught over, dealt by you in this topic. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words.
You can have the next presenter.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Khushbu. Ma'am, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am, I
Ma'am,
am.
are you ready?
Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Please let me know when I can start.
Yes, ma'am, you can start.
All right. A very warm good afternoon to all of you. I am Dr. Khushbu Gokani from Reva University, Bangalore. My paper, which is entitled as Dalit Discourse, a pragmatic approach to redefining margins. In that paper, I have tried to focus how, through the medium of literature and language, this mute section of the society referred to as Dalits, how they have made a case for themselves. We begin by understanding that social stratification is not a new concept. It was there and it was brought into function because of the smooth functioning of the society. But with the growing awareness and with the 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 interest to hold and the interest to exercise power, this system that was primarily brought into for the smooth functioning of the society and to divide the roles, it ultimately got converted to an oppressive system. And that is how terms like high and low, black and white, and others, victim and victimizer, all these terms, that is how these came into being. So a system, the social stratification ultimately turned into an oppressive system. And that is when we see the untouchables, especially in the Indian context I'm talking about, they became the lowest. I mean, they ultimately turned out to be the ones who were at the lowest rung of the social ladder. So they have been marginalized, they have been oppressed, and they have been victimized. But it is through language and literature that my paper focuses on, that is how they have made a case for themselves. The earliest attempt was made by Chokha Mela, where he was an untouchable saint. And then in the 14th century, when he started singing about his pain and his suffering, that is how it the first representation of Dalits in the form of literature, in literature itself, that's how it came into being, from his verse, from his poems. And then eventually, when as the things progressed, and then we had bhakti saints like Kabir Das, Ray Das, talking about the suffering of the this mute section of the society, they got more representation. But still now there was nobody who could actually present the pain and the agony and the anguish of this oppressed section of the society. So ultimately, as there was that political awakening brought in by certainly Mahatma Jyotiba Rao Phule, and then taken to a level altogether, on a very different level by Ambedkar himself. And that is how that when he started writing about people, that awakening was created. And then we have certainly many people coming in and talking about them. So that Dalit Panther movement was one uh, path breaking thing that gave that representation to Dalits in the literary arena. Although there were writers before, Dalit writers who were writing about Dalits, but certainly, like they say, the bearer better knows where the shoe pinches. So obviously they could present that agony, that pain, but that authenticity and the way it should come from the person who is actually suffering, that was somewhere missing. And when Dalits started writing, that authenticity, that literature from, I mean, that convincing power, that realistic aspect that was missing from the literature of the other literary giants, that eventually came. And that is how Dalits got representation in the literary arena. And in that also, when we see that only it was primarily they were talking about male Dalits, women again were left out. Unfortunately, whenever something happens, women are left out and they are not talked about so very often. So again, the waves of feminism that we talk about and we have heard also, none of that wave, if I have to personify it in that sense, could not touch the Dalit women. And again, there was a need of a very different kind of feminism, and that is how we have this concept of Dalit feminism. And that is when they started talking about this section of the society which was at the lowest rung of the social ladder. So again, that is how through literature they also,
Kushbu
when
ma'am,
they
excuse me,
yes
Kushbu ma'am,
ma'am.
can you please switch
Yes
on
ma'am.
your video?
I wish I could do that, ma'am, but I have some network issues here. If I do that, the voice will drop down. I mean, the
Okay,
call
madam.
will drop.
Okay, madam.
I'm
Okay,
so
carry on.
sorry.
It's okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, I was talking about Dalit feminism, and that is when women were empowered in the sense that when they were educated and they started writing. When we heard for the first time from Baby Kamble, who wrote the first Dalit autobiography, a woman belonging to a Mahar community, that is a representative Dalit community of the in Maharashtra. When they started talking I mean, when she talked about them, that is when for the first time that we heard about Dalit women existing as living, breathing beings. And after that, we have Urmila Pawar, we have Meenakshi Moon, we have a lot many who have talked about the real life, how a Dalit woman lives. In addition to what they have written, poetry and autobiography became the powerful tools in their hands, and that is how they have presented themselves, and they have earned an identity for themselves. Certainly a political identity they have, but that literary representation, that was very much missing. And when we there were no actual voices from the side of the Dalits, something that was missing. It is through literature that has come, and that is how they have been now able to establish themselves political identity. And now also I would say that they have a literary identity of themselves also. In terms of language, as we all know, Dalits simply refused sharan Sharan Kumar Limbale, taking the plunge. He simply said that this is not the aesthetics, the canonical aesthetics, the mainstream aesthetics is not what we are going to follow, because our literature, the something that we are going to talk about, something that we write, that simply doesn't suit our purpose, because it is not the flowery language that we require to write about pain. So that is when they came up with the concept. In fact, Limbale only gave this concept of a Shivam, a Sundaram, and a Satyam. He said that we don't require Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, because that is not what it is applicable to us. And then he came, and then he suggested this very different idea, that this is not something that we are talking about. It is not celebration of pain. It is the reality that we want you people to understand. So he also said that there will be a different aesthetics, the language will be different, and that is why we see colloquial expressions coming into being. Om Prakash Valmiki, a representative Hindi Dalit author who is not with us anymore, unfortunately, he said that my autobiography would be translated into English only when you retain the Hindi title, which is Jutan, leftover food. He said that it will be Jutan only. You cannot change it to any English equivalent. So that is how they said that our language, what we want to speak, we will decide. So this is how, through literature and through language, in this robotized millennium, what the theme of this conference is, that is how in this millennium also they are able to assert their identity. And in addition to political identity, they also have a literary identity. So my paper here primarily talks about the fact that they have to it is not about moving towards the center. It is about making the periphery so strong that the center starts defining itself in terms of margin. Thank you.
Gushpu ma'am, you came like a storm and you presented the I appreciate your. Okay, am I on? Take a
Yes,
break,
yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Your voice is breaking a little.
Okay, take a breath. Yourself. Haven't even breathed out
Hello.
when you are presenting the paper. Take a breath, Gushpu ma'am. You are okay.
Ah,
Have you taken a breath? Okay.
yes, I was actually running. I was actually running for some network should not break down. Sorry.
Yes, yes, I could understand. You came like a storm and you presented your points like a shower of rain. Okay, we enjoyed your presentation. It's a wonderful presentation. You have the coherence and everything. Um, you have mentioned few writers and their works. Can you repeat it to those writers, especially the women writers who have an impact on uh, the readers? Western as well as the Indian readers. Can you name some women writers whom you have admired a lot regarding this Dalit writing?
Okay, ma'am, I certainly liked the first autobiography written by Baby Kamble. The title is "The Prisons We Broke." It is obviously translated into English because she did not know this language. She wrote in vernacular Marathi. She knew, and in Marathi only she has written. I would say it is translated very beautifully by Maya Pandit, but it was very unnerving. I could not read the book in one go because the customs and the way the women are treated. I mean, um, we have heard of the term beastly treatment, but that beastly treatment, what that beastly treatment is, that is something that Baby Kamble has pictured in such a graphic manner. It will leave, I mean, it will give you jitters. You cannot read it. I could not read that book in one go. So that is one book that I really, and I really salute Dalit women for what they are enduring. We do not even know that this is the kind of life that they are actually leading, and they have no other option. And then there was another one which was a complete contrast, and that was by Urmila Pawar. Urmila Pawar, the title of her memoir is The Weave of My Life. So that is again translated by Maya Pandit only. And it is again one very powerful text, I would believe. She is one, she represents the modern Dalit woman, I would say. She is the one who says that I will decide what is right for myself. I will take the decision. Nobody else will take the decision for me. And she breaks so many customs that is not possible for anybody. In fact, I believe the ones belonging to the higher strata of society, somewhere down the lines there are certain societal norms that as women we are following, and we have to follow because there's no other option. Otherwise we will lose out on that societal acceptance. So she is the one who it's still, despite the fact that she belongs to that mute section of the society where they do not have any identity, still there are some, in some parts of the country they're still struggling for that identity. But she said that no, now nobody else is going to take charge of my fate, my destiny. I will decide what needs to be done. So these were the two books that were really impressive, and I would suggest each one of you, like who is here, and if you can refer to, please read the books. They are absolutely impressive, absolutely impressive.
Yes, ma'am, sure. Thank you for your suggestions. And you said the Dalit writings from the Dalit writers who are born as Dalit are very much authentic. But there are some writers who are non-Dalit. They are also writing the predicaments and plight of the Dalit women and men. Have you ever read those writings, and did you find any difference between these two writings?
Yes, ma'am. I do agree with the fact that even the ones who do not belong to this community, they are writing, and their writing is also very powerful. But like, in order to say, and because I found that difference somewhere, that connection that I could have with the writers, with the writings of the ones who are Dalits themselves, and the ones who had simply observed and written. Obviously, they were able to write, like we can feel that pain and that agony, but the hardcore reality, the ground reality, that only a Dalit, I very strongly believe, would be able to put that into words, because that is what he or she has suffered. So similar as ma'am, this is something like women, men can write about women, but
Yes,
when
yes.
women write about themselves, that becomes more convincing and more realistic. That is the comparison that I think I can state here.
Yes, ma'am. The last presenter, that's the question I asked in the last presenter also. Okay, a man talking about women's issue, like that, it won't be authentic. Just now, you as you have quoted. Yes.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. You can go for the next presentation, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Uh, Thank you, Khushbu ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. Now, thank you everyone for your valuable
Thank you,
time, and
ma'am.
special thanks for a chairperson for her cooperation, and valuable time throughout the session. Now I call upon Ms. Vidya to deliver vote of thanks. Vidya ma'am, please unmute.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Department of English and other foreign languages and the entire team, and on my own behalf, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Vinmayi, Assistant Professor, PPP, Vanya Perumal College for Women, Virudhunagar, Tamil Nadu, speaker of the session, for spending your valuable time and moderating the presentation. I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the participants for their excellent presentation and making this session meaningful and interesting. And with these warm words, we move to the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya ma'am, for your vote of thanks. I thank all the participants and the chairperson for your cooperation. The session is over. And I also, one second, I'll just post the feedback link. All of you just like kindly fill the feedback link.
Feedback link is been posted. I request the participants to fill the feedback. Participants may leave your Google Meet now after filling the feedback form.